This week on the Computer Chronicles, the conclusion of our special series on technology and the church. We'll show you some simple networking products that can bring added efficiency and cost savings to your organization's business operations. We'll take you to The Rock in Roseville, California, billed as the world's first interactive church. And we'll show you how to add music to your group's events or educational programs with the amazing Vancouvering piano. Technology in the church, coming up next on the Computer Chronicles. Computer Chronicles is made possible in part by PC to PC, the online computer migration service from PC First, moving files, applications, and preferences from your old computer to your new one. Additional support is provided by Upside Events, presenting the Digital Lifestyle Revolution Conference, where people and technology intersect. Hi, and welcome to this special edition of the Computer Chronicles. I'm Stuart Chaffee. This is the conclusion of our three-part series on technology and the church, looking at ways religious organizations and other nonprofits can use computers and the internet to better run their organizations. So far, we've looked at topics like desktop video, web design, accounting packages, online educational research tools. This week, we're going to focus on the use of digital music and networking. Now, any nonprofit, of course, has to learn how to live with limited resources, and that means getting the most out of your existing investment in technology. One way to do that is to network your computers and the peripherals associated with them. And to understand how to do that, I talked with Peter Newton of a company called Netgear. Here's the point. You've got a couple of PCs maybe in the office at your church. You can get more out of that by networking them together and only have to buy one printer, not two or three printers, and only one internet connection, not several. You can all share the same information within that office. And the gentleman who's going to explain that all to us is from Netgear, Peter Newton. Welcome, Peter.
Thank you.
I sort of set the situation up, as you know, whether it's a small business or a small church, it's the same idea. Yep. People have a bunch of computers out there, and generally it's very inefficient, right?
Certainly, you can make a lot better use of a single printer if you can share it amongst all your computers.
Okay, and if I could just mention to our crew back there that I'm hearing all the noise in the control room in my ear. If we could cut that out, that would help a lot. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's talk about the basic benefits of networking. I sort of alluded quickly to them.
Right.
What happens if I use your kind of equipment and tie my 3 or 4 or 5 PCs together? What good happens from that?
Well, you increase your productivity because you can do a lot more with the equipment you have, and you save a lot of money because you don't have to, as you mentioned, buy a printer for each computer, buy an internet account for each computer. You can share that amongst everyone. So you can increase your productivity as you can share your assets, and you don't have to duplicate everything.
And what about this notion of file sharing? Explain how that works.
Well, that is quite simply, if you have files located on one computer, instead of having to use a computer disk to move that to another computer, for sometimes the files are too big to do that if you're doing media, as you were talking about earlier. You can connect those computers using a network so that file can be shared over the internet, over that network. Mm-hmm. And so one computer here, say, can access a file on that computer.
All right, so we actually have a network set up here. This is one, let's say this is one workstation, one PC sitting in an office somewhere. Mm-hmm. This is John's station, this is Mary's station over here, using a completely separate and suppose she was working on a multimedia file like we talked about before, but I want to get into it and look at it and massage it or change something or be aware of what's going on. I can just access that on my computer over here without having to physically move things around like you said.
Yes, we've actually done that right now. We've had it showing on the desktop right here. We've mapped the drive on that computer, so if we just double-click it, we can see that there's a document sitting on that computer.
And that's actually a file, so everybody understands. We created this word processing document on this computer over here, and you're saying, I need access to that. You might be in another room in the building somewhere, right?
Certainly. And just by double-clicking on it, you can open it up. It's still sitting on that computer, but you're looking at it and working on it on this one.
Now, can you actually get into that and make changes and edit that document zone?
Yes, you can. You can.
It's a live, real document. You just
you can type anything you want.
And you could save it, and then the person working over that computer could access what you had just done.
Yes.
Now, this raises the issue of security when people start being able to do this. How do I make sure that people don't get into certain files that may be not available to everybody in the organization?
Well, you can set some protection on some of your
passwords
files.
for some of these files.
Passwords. You can make some documents read-only so that people could look at them but not actually change them.
All right, now we talked about being able to share peripherals. So, for example, we have one printer set up here. Because we have our two computers here networked, we can both access. Go ahead. We can both access that same printer. Is that right?
Yes, that's one of the main benefits.
So number one, I don't have to buy two printers, and also I don't have to go running around the place looking for somebody that has a printer, right?
Yes.
So can you give us an example of how? Now this printer is hooked up to this computer. Is that right?
Yes, that's what I understand. Yes.
Okay. Now suppose you want to print from your computer. Could you show me how you can actually print a document?
Certainly. We have another document that we've copied over to this computer. So this document is actually on this computer. We open up that document, and you see it's different than the one we just had opened.
Right.
All we have to do is hit print, and because we've set that printer as the printer for this
we can
computer,
see this is already blinking, yeah.
Then the file will actually print to that computer.
And again, we can't show you behind here, but just so you know, this printer is not plugged into the computer that Peter was just working on right there. So you really can share. What other kinds of peripherals might you be able to share on a network besides a printer?
Well, if you have a zip drive or any other type of external drives, a scanner, exactly. You'd only have to buy one and connect it to that one computer. As long as your computer is set up to share files and share printers, it is accessible to anything on any other computer on the network.
Right, and we're printing out right here, and let me just make sure, yes.
So it's just like this printer was connected to this computer, even though it's not.
So you save a lot of money right there. Now what about the internet connection part of it? Suppose, for example, we have access at our church to a DSL line or to a cable modem line, which is nice and fast, but I don't want to have every single computer with that separate card and that separate connection. Can we share a high-speed internet connection?
Certainly. Each internet account costs some money, so sure you want to save that. The device to do that is actually a router, and that will share a single internet account.
Okay, so that's this little box we might get over here? And how complicated is that?
This one is Netgear designs its products for small businesses and homes, so we don't expect anyone to know a lot about networking. So this one, we have a wizard that'll set it up real easy, just a couple of steps.
Just a point and click, follow the sort of multiple choice. You don't have to figure out anything.
Should be up in about 5 minutes.
Let's talk about the rest of the hardware here we can, Peter, so people understand what it takes to set this up, because, you know, in the past, setting up a network was really complicated.
Right.
Suppose I want to do the basic things, first of all, we just talked about. I want to be able to share peripherals like my printer. I want to be able to share files. What would I need to do that?
Well, there's 3 basic components you need. First, you need something to connect the computer to the network. Those are our adapters, which we have here in front.
All right, so this is a USB plug that would just go into the back of my computer.
Right, that's the easiest possible adapter you can
And then
get.
over here I have my Ethernet cable.
Correct, which we have over here. You can see it's slightly different than a phone cable. It's a little bit wider.
Right. I mean, it's not that different from setting up a couple of telephone extensions in your office, right?
Very simple.
And once you plug this guy in, now the computer is sort of like another phone, and you just connect them with the Ethernet cable.
Kind of.
If you have a laptop, is that what this thing would be for?
Yes. They have a PCMCI slot on the side, and then you just slide that in, and the computer would recognize it and start to install it. It's a really simple. I could kind of demonstrate how
go
it
ahead,
starts.
please. Yeah, let's show us what the setup would look like.
I'll use the USB one and simply plug it into the USB port on the back of the computer.
All right, so real time, you're just sticking that thing in there, and it
right
recognized right away that you'd plugged a network device in there, and it's saying...
And the windows pop up, and you just click and follow the directions and install. It's very simple.
And now what would I do with this card? What would this be for?
That's another type of adapter. That would go into a PCI slot. So if you're comfortable opening up your computer to put that in, you could use one of these.
And this is a very inexpensive
it'll be the cheapest solution.
way to do it. And then finally, what's this box? What would I do with this?
Well, once you have your computer connected to the network and you got your cables connected to your adapters, you need something to tie all them together. And that's a switch I brought that will do that. You simply plug it in just like you'd plug in a phone.
Okay, final question. How expensive is it to set something like this? Suppose I have 3 or 4 computers in my office and I want to network them like you described. What would that cost me?
To do simple file sharing and print sharing, you can do that actually less than $100.
Really?
Yes. If you
per computer or for all the computers?
For the whole thing, actually.
Just for the network setup. Yeah, and if I wanted to share a cable connection, an internet connection?
Our routers generally run more than $100, but for less than $200, you could get the whole thing set up.
Last question. Tell me the truth now. Can a normal person follow instructions and set this up?
Yes, we have very simple instructions in our products, and if there's any problems, we have a toll-free technical support 24 hours a day.
Thank you very much, Peter. In this era of the internet, one way churches are using technology is to make their services interactive, so that not only can the leaders of the congregation deliver a sermon, they can find out what the members of the congregation are thinking about the subject of the sermon or the message of the sermon, and they can do this all in real time during the actual service.
They were trusting that there was something they could do to get them right with God. You would never know that. You'd never be able to ask that question and have a show of hands to find that out. But now with the interactive, I can find out every kind of personal thing I'd ever want to ask my audience. And when they give me their answer, they're allowed to be anonymous.
This is a church affectionately called The Rock, located in Roseville, California, just north of Sacramento. Its pastor, Francis Infuso, calls it the world's first totally interactive church. The idea was to wire the church so that the members of the congregation could give the pastor instant feedback. Luckily for this church, it's in the backyard of a major Hewlett-Packard facility.
It seemed very expensive, cumbersome, difficult, until at one point I asked one of our administrators, I said, okay, why don't you ask one of the top engineers at Hewlett-Packard if they could recommend a person who could advise us concerning this. And they came back and they said, the guy you need to talk to is a software and a hardware expert. His name is Jürgen Benowitz.
Benowitz led a team of volunteers who spent 9 months wiring the church. The net result is sermons are now two-way affairs, with those in the congregation responding in real time to questions raised by the pastor. Since this interactive system was wired into the Rock in Roseville, even newer wireless technology has become available, enabling churches to do the same thing without the burden of having to hardwire every seat. The church in Roseville also uses computers to produce media in support of the church's missions, including videos put together on desktop computers. And Pastor Francis Infuso says the activity not only helps the church, but sometimes also helps the younger members of the church find a new, more social way to use their techie skills.
The principal person who edits our videos 2 years ago was stuck in his room 15 hours a day on the internet.
Volunteers here also use desktop publishing programs to produce full-color brochures about the church's various activities, all part of the multimedia focus at the Rock of Roseville Church.
Media has increased in its quality, decreased in its expense, and has become a very valuable tool that the church can use.
If you're involved in a church or any kind of religious organization, no doubt music plays a part of any special event or service that you do. Now with today's digital technology, it's easier than ever to integrate music into your organization's activities or even educational programs. Here to show us how to do that is Sean O'Shea of the Vancouvering Company. Music is a very important part of anything that goes on in a church, whether it's a worship service or a special event like a wedding, etc. And the world of technology and music has changed really a lot in the last couple of years in a way that makes it a lot easier and more accessible. And one of the best tools I've seen is what we have right here, something called the Vancouvering. And this is Sean O'Shea, who is our expert and guide to what goes on here. Sean, let me ask you first of all, as I mentioned, whenever we've dealt with MIDI, or music technology, it's always been a nightmare. A million cables, a million wires, and it's very complicated. What's the difference in what you guys are doing now with music technology?
I'm very glad you asked. I've used MIDI. As you know, Stuart, I'm a songwriter, and for years I've used PCs and Mac, software programs, sound modules, drum machines, samplers, all this stuff. And inevitably there was a spaghetti of wiring and brand incompatibility. I would feel inspired to maybe create a song, but then I would expend my energy trying to figure out what went wrong.
Trapped in the technology, yeah.
As you know, MIDI is an acronym for Musical Instrument Digital Interface.
Right.
I've heard among church musicians and music teachers that it actually now stands for "Mine Isn't Doing It," which I think is a much better acronym.
All right, so let's get to the positive side. Now, explain basically what do we have here? What is this? This looks like a piano.
This is a full-color touchscreen, and it's a software-based musical instrument. Now, although it looks like a little piano, there are no strings in here, so this is a digital piano.
And there's actually a real computer sitting in here.
Of sorts, yeah. Of course, it's not the kind you're going to, surf the net or get your email on.
No, but you've merged a computer and a digital piano.
Exclusively for music. And it starts off with really a fantastic sounding grand piano sound that, of course, is always in perfect tune.
Sure.
which at a church is an
All right,
issue.
now, you know, churches, the default is you have an organ there of some sort, which you use for services. Can I turn this into an organ?
Absolutely. There are several different organs, and we can go in and manipulate the sounds and maybe get the exact one we want,
All
but I might want...
And you say it could be different kinds of organs?
All different types. I might, you know, go to a more laid-back reed sound.
So that might be appropriate to a different kind of event taking place in the
Or
church,
I could
for
go in
example.
and maybe mix and match a couple different organ sounds and come up with new sounds.
Now, can you add something like a sort of choir to this?
Sure. Or, you know, I could mix and match sounds, or for individual sounds, you might have a church that's having more of a folk service.
Okay.
I mean, that's basically a recording of a guitar. We might be having something special going on. We need horns. And all I'm doing to get that, Stuart, is I just touch the button marked
Yeah, now let's
French
look at the
horn.
interface a little bit. And I hope we can see this. This is just a touch screen, so I mean there's no mouse, there's no computer keyboard.
Right.
So to just give us an idea of what
Touch
that
the screen.
interface
Well,
looks like.
I'll show you. You know, you asked me about mixing sounds. I'm glad you asked. I'll scoot over to here to what's called the studio. In the studio, the default is it starts with an acoustic grand piano. Well, I'm going to change that piano to my church organ sound. Now I want to add a second sound. I just touch the second sound and I add a choir sound. Now we're hearing them at the same time. There's my choir, there's the organ. Now I'd like the choir to be a little louder. All I do is just touch this volume slider and move it up and down. It's just that simple.
I mean, anybody could figure this
Sure,
out.
absolutely. Or if you need help, right here, let's say I forget what that button in the right-hand corner is. We push the question mark.
This is the metronome. To turn it on or
Suppose,
off.
Sean, I'm doing a special, say it's a Christmas holiday event. I want the sounds of bells. Can I customize this to get something like that?
Great, sure. Well, let's go to a third sound here, Stuart. And like those big tubular bells here. Great sound, but you know what? If I go to play a chord now, that's
quite
not
right.
really what I want. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell the bells, here's my key range, almost like a 5-manual organ that comes up on the screen. And I tell the bells, hey, you guys just play up top, like in the bell tower. And the organ and the ahs, they're too high up there anyway. So let's tell those guys, don't play up there.
So you're assigning the keyboard to the different functions
just by
here,
touching the
it.
screen. So now, I have this sound here, and then my bells up here. But you know, I'd really like those bells to be a little bigger and deeper, as though I was playing them down. So I touch transpose, 1 octave, 2 octaves, and now. Now we go for our bells.
That's great. Sean, let me ask you something else. You know, churches, you have people singing and having no words. Can you do like a karaoke function here to actually project the words to a song from this?
There are contemporary Christian worship tunes that are available in a MIDI format that has lyrics. So we can get those lyrics right here on our screen in the player mode, or karaoke we call it. And what's neat about the Vancouvering piano is this enables you to send these lyrics out through a VGA output. So a church that has a projector.
So if you had that projection system like we talked about earlier, you can actually, right from the piano, project the lyrics on the screen.
Exactly. Well, here's a pretty standard one that we all know. And here are the lyrics going by. And let's pick that up. Let's make it go a little faster.
And that's all built into this whole
That's
basic
all
thing
right here. Now I could go over into some of my programs, manipulate this data, change it, do my own. Well, maybe that's not a good key. Here's how difficult it is to change the pitch. Just touch transpose.
Now all this is happening, and you're not touching the keyboard, obviously, so we've got sort of an automatic mode here. Now let me ask you an example. Suppose, I mean, we normally have a volunteer comes in on Sunday to play the organ. The volunteer's sick. I mean, can I still get the music out of the machine without a human being?
Great question. All we would have to do is we would have our organist, our pianist, ahead of time maybe play some certain pieces into the piano, and we just come in and almost treat it like a tape player. Let's say, well, I don't happen to have any worship tunes in here today, but someone had recorded Stormy Weather. So let's touch the play button and just listen to Stormy Weather. Now, I'm not playing that. Okay,
So that can be all,
that had been pre-played.
play it once and it's there to be played again.
I did one just a little while ago. Here's what I'll do. I'll just touch load, and a song that I was playing with a little bit earlier, Friends, which most of our audience will know. And now I'll just touch play. This is something I played earlier. Friends are friends forever. Now the choir director can get up and direct the choir.
Okay, you mentioned the choir director. Now, that's another thing I think that's interesting to do. Suppose, you've got your choir and you've got your different sections and you have different music for those sections. Can you write the music for the choir in here and then actually print out the parts from here and hand them out to the members of the choir?
You absolutely can. All we do is we scoot over to a program which is included with the instrument called Cakewalk Express. Cakewalk Express is a 256-track, state-of-the-art program for composing and scoring music. All I want to do is something simple today. I'm not going to score a movie with this. I just want to put up a blank piece of sheet music. I'm going to touch record. It'll count to 4, and I'll play. 1, 2, 3, 4.
And it's automatically scoring the music as you're playing it.
And there, in real time, it's writing it, and let's take a look. Go to print preview, zoom in. Great, let's say we're happy with that. And of course, maybe I was doing a choir part, so I'm going to just play the alto part, I'm going to play the soprano part, and I'm going to actually print out the sheet music. All I do is hook up our standard printer and hand all my choir their parts.
Well, so you just hook up a regular computer printer here, and it looked like a Windows interface, just pull it down and hit print.
Very, very easy to use.
All right, another thing, suppose you want to integrate music into your Sunday school program and deal with children, or actually be teaching music in a way. Can you use this? This is sort of an automatic teacher in a way?
It is. I like to consider it a tutor of sorts.
Okay.
We still really having a human being teaching lessons. There's nothing like it.
But you can certainly practice with this and
no
play
question.
and actually get critiques of your practice session.
This is the most powerful musical education tool in the world. It's just amazing. Let's just scoot in and play with some basic lessons. Let's say Stuart's joining us today. Let's see what we were working on. Simple lessons here. I'm going to back up to the very, very
So from
beginning.
the very, very basics, how to hold your
Stuart's
hands.
just showing up. Here he is.
And I'm Diane. We're your piano teachers. Now, if you
There are
later
even
need to go
churches
back to the
augmenting their
discussion-
income. Really, there are a lot of parents that are paying for piano
being able to
lessons out there.
offer piano lessons.
Could do it right at the church and help pay for the instrument. It's kind of exciting, too. This year we've introduced an instrument that, we might have a church that already has a digital
Well, that's
piano.
what it is. A lot of churches say, hey, we just spent a lot of money. We either have some sort of digital keyboard or an organ. Can I add this functionality to that?
Finally, you can. We have a little product called Xpantia, X-P-A-N-T-I-A, if I spelled it right.
Okay.
Basically, it allows you to take this touch screen, CD drawer, which, by the way, is cut right in here into the frame of the piano, floppy drive, hard drive, all of these programs, all laid out on one simple little touch screen, which we would just plug right into our existing digital piano.
Yeah, I don't know if you're able to see that. Sean just hit a button here and a little sort of CD rhyme drive sort of popped out here.
Right out in the frame of the piano.
So if I had created music earlier or somebody had written some music, I could then import it into the piano also just as I would in a computer.
Either at some point, of course, the piano actually has a modem on it. So at some point, you'll be able to go to websites and right then and there download music into the piano directly. There is
or send out the music to the members of the choir over the internet.
That's
or
right.
post the music on our website.
Send them an email.
All that stuff.
A lot of exciking possibilities.
That is great.
Really
and it's called
incredible.
the Vancouvering.
Vancouvering Interactive Piano.
Okay, and spell it because it's a hard word.
Sure, VANKOEVERING.
.com?
Well, actually, there is Vancouvering.com.
Okay.
Yes.
Sean, thank you very much.
Thank you, Stuart.
That's it for our special three-part series on technology and the church, ways that religious organizations and other nonprofits can use computers and the internet to better run their organizations. If you have any questions about anything you saw in the series, please check out our website at computerchronicles.org. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Stuart Chaffee, and I hope we'll see you here again next time. Computer Chronicles is made possible in part by PC to PC, the online computer migration service from PC First, moving files, applications, and preferences from your old computer to your new one. Additional support is provided by Upside Events, presenting the Digital Lifestyle Revolution Conference, where people and technology intersect.
To purchase a videotape copy of today's program, call toll-free 1-888-310-7850. please specify the show number and the topic.